This episode of the Conduit Cast will contain spoilers for all three numbered Xenoblade Chronicles games, as well as Xenogears and Xenoblade Chronicles X, but timestamps will be provided in the description and as chapters on this video, so you can skip out on the games and story sections that you may not have played just yet. Enjoy the episode. Let's get a little intro going. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Conduit Cast, and this time, we are going to be talking about the most emotional moments in the Xenoblade Chronicle series, and this is going to be a very, emotional-filled episode, and today, we're joined by someone who I wanted on this cast for a while, and that is my buddy Upper Nimbus. You want to introduce yourself to everyone?
Hey everyone, I'm Upper Nimbus. I live in Australia. I do Nintendo and JRPG content quite a lot, like same as you, Nish. Very similar content that we make. Most, I prefer kind of doing more Nintendo Switch content, but I do the JRPGs as well. And of course, I'm a huge fan of Xenoblade, which is why I'm here today. So I'm really looking forward to talking about emotional moments from the Xenoblade series.
Yeah, and we've always, me and Nimbus always wanted to talk about Xenoblade in really in detail, so this is a perfect opportunity to do so. How are you doing, Kevin?
100%. I'm good. I kind of I scrapped together my stuff. I feel like I was a bit late to the party, but definitely, here. I mean, it's a great topic because Xenoblade has to be one of the most, or possibly the most for me, profound stories that I've seen in a JRPG, that I've seen in a game, or even in any form of media, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot to talk about, so nailing it down to just these specific ones that hit us really deeply.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this. We have what we decided to do is each of us will share our most our favorite or most treasured emotional moment from each numbered game, and then we'll look at some of what our community has said on social media and YouTube and Discord, and then I think near the end we'll just talk about Chapter 5, because I tried to give a challenge to you guys, hey, what if we just don't have Chapter 5 as one of our choices, because even in a future collab that I'm doing with you guys involved as well, I'm try not to talk about Chapter 5, because everyone talks about Chapter 5. It is the go-to emotional moment for the whole series, and rightfully so, but we can, we're gonna talk about that, but probably at the end. And
yeah, we have to.
We have to. And then I will also have an edited segment somewhere near the end where I'll talk about my personal favorite emotional moment from X and Gears, because I've played those games, and Kevin will soon be able to contribute to the Xenogears discussion soon.
Very soon, yeah. Yes. Finally, I'm finally back from my long break from Xenogears. I finally started it up again. I don't know where I am in the length of the game. I'm about 30 hours in. I just made it to Thomas.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much just hanging out there. I got party wiped by a boss, so I'm gonna have to go back and see if I can upgrade my gears before going back into that.
Yeah. But you're now officially a man of the sea. That is what you are.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. And then Nimbus, you'll get on gears eventually. I know you will. I think
I'm very close, considering you helped me set it up probably 2 months ago now, which is really hard to believe, and I still haven't played it yet, but it's definitely going to be one of those priority games to play, just because of how important Xeno actually is. It's crazy how important this series is.
Yeah, and not only with Gears, but Nimbus will be doing a PS1 JRPG binge. We will get him onto that. We will.
Okay.
I will be forced to do it at some point. Yeah.
Anyways,
contractually obligated.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Xenoblade is a good gateway into those kinds of games, I will say. So yeah. You guys want to get started? Let's go. Xenoblade 1.
All right.
Who wants to start? I guess Nimbus, you can go ahead and get started. Xenoblade 1.
Okay. Okay. So as we know with the Xenoblade games, it's really difficult to pinpoint an absolute favorite emotional moment, considering everything in those games can be considered peak and emotional. Like, it's, it varies from person to person. But I think the one moment in the original Xenoblade, also Definitive Edition especially, considering their facial animations are just so much more, how do I say it? Like, it's more expressive, and you can see and you can feel the emotions even better with Definitive Edition. So let's go with Definitive Edition. So, okay, my favorite emotional moment is probably when Shulk is fighting Dixon. When Dixon turns bad and he reveals that he's a giant.
Yeah.
And also one of Zanza's disciples. It's like that cutscene afterwards when Shulk defeats Dixon. And the thing is, like, he's a bad guy. So, like, okay, we got to take him down. Like, he betrayed us. Like, he's a dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's his name.
So it is his namesake.
Yes, exactly. So, like, you feel, like, really angry towards him. Like, you feel the same as Shulk. You're like, I can't believe he led us astray. Like, we thought we could trust him. We had this bond with him. So it kind of really hurts, and it cuts pretty deep that, like, we have to fight him. Because deep down, you kind of don't really want to, because you like the character. Like, he's a really likable character.
Oh, yeah.
And fighting him and, like, going, questioning why do you have to be antagonistic? Why are you one of the bad guys? Like, it really hurts. So that in itself is already emotional, that, like, you have to fight him, and it's a part of the story beat, so you can't get out of it. You have to beat Dixon to even get to Zanza. And he's like the final straw right before Zanza as well. But what really strikes, like, that emotional chord within me is when Dixon is basically dying, and Fiora turns to Shulk and goes, Shulk, his wounds.
Yeah.
And Shulk's just, like, down, like, he's like contemplating everything that had just happened. He's like, he knows that Dixon is dying. He knows that he delivered that final blow, and how Dixon's like, oh, like the student surpasses the teacher. Basically, how Dixon is talking is like, even though he's a dick and he serves Zanza loyally, I think unintentionally Dixon really grew attached to Shulk. And I think that, like, that's why it really hurts, is because why did it have to be like that? Because they both cared about each other in different ways. And Dixon sort of put on that front of, oh, well, yeah, well, I don't really care about you, I got to serve my boss. But he grew attached. You can tell he grew attached. And it's emotional for Dixon and for Shulk especially, because that zoom in of, like, his lower jaw, and he's just trembling, like, and the music, like, it just,
and
yes.
You're right, Definitive Edition really added to some of those emotional moments where you see the eyes and the facial expressions, and you really get hit harder with that. And I think you explained it very well, and I think you also did in your, like, JRPG Betrayals episode. I think you talked about this as well. But I don't know. I don't know if you've seen the last episode of Conduit Cast where we talk about our hot takes, but it's not like I kind of went, like, really hard into the hot take and said, like, Dixon is my least favorite villain in the series, but it's not because of that emotion. It's because it just kind of came out of nowhere, and I was like, I wanted to see, like, why Shulk feels this way, why like, he was so attached. But now that you say this, I'm thinking back at those early Colony 9 moments, and you're right, like, the time the time Dixon had with Dunban, Fiora, and Shulk, and Ryan, was probably like a fraction in his life. But you can see that he still cares for them, even though that was just, like, a tiny portion in his, like, gigantically long, giant life. He still genuinely shows that he cared for them, so that does make that moment hit even harder. What do you think, Kevin?
I think it is very much tied to how, now that I think about it, I think every single Xenoblade protagonist is basically an orphan, or just straight up is. So it's like the idea that, you know, we hear about how Shulk's parents died in like the expedition, right? And when we get introduced to our main cast at the very beginning of the game, kind of Dunban and Dixon are our like primary adult figures. So Shulk very clearly looks up to both of them, and Dixon is obviously there a lot of the time, you know, when they're first like looking at the Monado and like researching it and stuff. He always comes back like throughout the story. He's always there. He's kind of lurking. You definitely get the feeling that he's pretty suspect. Yeah. Like fairly early on, or like near the middle of the game, you're like he starts saying a bunch of stuff.
Why did you know that I needed weapons to defeat Mechon? Why did you have to come just for that?
And also, like in that whole marsh, when he's like, oh, like I feel bad for like, you know, misleading them, and then someone's like, what's that? Like, what did you say? He's like, nothing. Like, just
that's like the big tell. But
yeah,
I mean, my biggest takeaway from that specific scene when I played it was kind of the build up to that fight, because that is the moment in the story where the party has like fully set in stone their ideas and their resolve going into the final battle. Like they've you know, gone through most of their character arcs already, and they're ready to take on Zanza, and this is just like the last thing right before Zanza. But then of course it's not, you know, it's not just an easy fight, you know, because they have this connection.
Yeah,
there's history there, because like you think about it, Dixon literally took Shulk in when Shulk was like a kid. So even though we don't see it, you know that there's like, what, 10 to 15 odd years where Dixon has raised Shulk and literally has become the father figure. And yeah, it's like you're saying, Kevin, like with Dunban and Dixon both being like these adult figures. Or was that you, Nish? I can't remember. One of you guys saying like these adult father figures. I think Dunban's kind of more like a big brother figure, like in a way. That's how I see it. But still, like these like figures that Shulk looks up to, and
role models.
Dixon probably being role models. So yeah, that's why it just hurts. And like you guys are saying, like they're already sort of like closing their story arcs, like leading up to Zanza. Like they know what they're doing, they know where they're going, but like it's that one last stepping stone that really has to like drive the, you know, the stake through the chest, essentially. Yeah. It's like, okay.
Kevin, I don't know if you saw this on social media, but there's now like a lot of the Xenoblade artists are sharing what they did on the Xenoblade Compendium, or the Xeno Compendium, which is like it's like a collection of art from a whole bunch of artists who are involved in the Xenoblade community. It's in this like nice book. There was
some of it.
Yeah, there was one really nice piece of art. I think I retweeted it, and it's a picture of I will like if I remember, I'll post it in the description. I'll credit the artist, but it's a really nice picture of Shulk. Of Dixon, like drawing or like teaching Shulk something. Basically, like just like there with Shulk as Shulk is like doing something, and Shulk is like a little kid, and then outside you see like Dunban and Ryan and Fiora as they're like the younger versions of them, and that was like so wholesome, because you think of that in your head, you're like, this is what these characters like went through, and then they have to like kill that guy. And that's something I just like, my critique with Dixon as a character is I wish that they talked more about that stuff, they showed more of that stuff. And like you still see it in Colony 9 when like the raid is happening, when the Mechon come and all that. But if we saw some flashbacks, if we maybe got some more legitimate heart-to-hearts, maybe they do have some heart-to-hearts about Dixon, I don't know, but Xenoblade 1 heart-to-hearts are notoriously hard to get, but like yeah, but that
I'm sure there's so much content in the heart-to-hearts that we all missed.
Yeah, there is. That's one like downside, but that is one thing I was sort of missing. But you think about that in your head. We headcanon Xenoblade a lot. Like we often think like, what is the Rex family doing after the events of Xenoblade 2? What is whatchamacallit, the like Xenoblade 1 party, like what are they up to and all that. So this is one of those things where we can think like, hey, what kind of person was Dixon to them? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who wants to go next with Xenoblade 1?
I can go next.
Okay, alright.
Alright, so my most emotional moment for Xenoblade 1 is it's a little broad, I'd say. Essentially, I really love Ryan's core character development in Xenoblade 1. And so the two moments that I wanted to highlight are his conversation with Charla on the beach, and also kind of a lot of the stuff near the end of the game, like the very final cutscene, and a bit before that as well. So Ryan, from day one, from the very start of the game, he is the tough guy. He's the tank. He's kind of the wholesome, like himbo, like dumb guy archetype. Like he's a very archetypal character, but even in just the first section, you get to see how strong his friendship is with Shulk and Fiora, and you know how tied they are to Colony 9, to where of course this is essentially presented as Shulk's emotional journey. Like Shulk is so like consumed by rage by the end of I guess it's chapter 1. I don't remember where the chapter delineations happen in Xenoblade 1. There's just too many of them.
Kind of nebulous because there's like so many chapters.
17 chapters. Yeah, like
you real quick, you know what's funny is someone in one of my comments today just said like, I finished chapter 7 of Xenoblade 1 and I'm enjoying it so far.
Like,
so in my head I'm like, oh, they're like at the end of the game, and then I remembered, I was like, oh wait, Xenoblade 1 has that many chapters. They're probably still early.
Yeah, Xenoblade is like the really, really big Xenoblade game that I wish the other two had similar chapter lengths. And I feel like, sorry, no, it's a tangent, but like I don't like how like Xenoblade 2 went down to like 10. And then Xenoblade 3 like went down to 7. I'm like, why don't we just keep cutting it down?
They're more meaty because the games get longer, but the chapter lengths get shorter.
Do in them.
The chapters get longer.
Yeah.
So, of course, you meet Charla. Rex is immediately crushing on Charla, who is a engaged woman, not married, but engaged. She's taken essentially. So Ryan is going places. Ryan is kind of pushing his luck, and he's kind of he definitely likes her, but he gets to this point where he's like, all right, you know, gotta take a step back, gotta figure things out, and then. We get to the beach, and this is a section where pretty much every character has like pretty introspective conversations. Like this is when we get Fiora back to the party. This is when we get Dunban and Ricky and Melia off on their own, which I almost talked about that scene. I love that scene.
That's a good one.
And then we get this scene with just Ryan and Charla, and Ryan just kind of like pours his heart out about how almost inadequate he feels, and how he feels that everyone is getting so strong that they won't need him anymore because he's always been the shield. He's always been there to pick Shulk up, and now Shulk is progressing so much and like fighting for himself, and he almost feels like, oh well, I'm too stupid to do anything else, and like he just like, you get to see another side of him you don't really see in these kinds of characters that are like all like crazy and mostly used for comic relief all the time. And that just like, it really kind of, I just really love those kinds of characters. I really love those kinds of stories, kind of breaking away the veil of like this archetype we built up in our heads, and like getting to the real person there. And Charla has a lot of good stuff to say there, and I'm sure there's stuff that I'm not mentioning, but like the more they talk, they kind of go on about like the nature of war, and they're like, well, you know, it's like we're all in this together. It's like we don't have that much time to like figure out our stuff.
Yeah, and one thing about Ryan I remember throughout the game is he's always the butt of everyone's jokes, and he always feels like he's screwing up. Like, there's that part in Machna Forest where everyone is talking about like, oh, we need permission to get into Eretz Sea, and then once we get there, we need to ask the High Entia to take us up to Prison Island, and we need Imperial sanctions and this. And Ryan's like, what the heck is an Imperial sanction? And Dunban like properly explains to him. He's like, yeah, Ryan, this is what it means. And then Charlotte's like, dude, what the heck? Like, everyone knows this. Why'd you like sleep in school? Like, what is up? Like, you're so behind. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I forgot. It's okay. And then like the biggest Ryan screw up is in the High Entia tomb when he's like, let me try to do this. Let me try this. And he's like trying to help. He doesn't come at it from like a bad point of view, but he's trying to help, and then he screws up, he touches something he shouldn't, and then even Alvis gets mad at him. That was interesting. Alvis is like, don't touch that, and then they all fall, and they're like, Ryan, it's all your fault. Like, Shulk is like, Ryan, what the heck? And so it all comes back to him. So he feels that pressure. He has that thing in his head. He's like, I have to do good, I have to be there for everyone, but I'm also screwing up. Like, what's wrong with me? So that's also
really sad, dude.
Yeah, it's sad because like you sometimes feel like that way in your life, you relate that way sometimes, and then you have like friends who are like trying to like be there for you, and then like they're always like trying to catch up in that way, and you want to like support them as well. So like I see that it's a very like down to earth kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, with the ending bits, it's like I really love what you see in like the final cutscene where he's like fishing with Ricky and like Sharla and Juju are there, and they're all just like they're just like jumping around in the water and stuff. I just thought that scene was so sweet, and like you can see how Sharla and Ryan's relationship has built over time. Of course, after the whole Jade Face thing happened.
Yeah. That was also a very great moment because like there's that 1 second or like that last minute where Gatto comes back into his own personality, and he goes to Ryan. He's like, Ryan, I'm not gonna be here anymore. You need to take care of Sharla. And he's like, holy shit. Yeah,
that's a really strong moment for Ryan, because that's when you see him kind of like hold all his emotions together. Like, he's trying to hold himself together, and he's trying to be strong for like, Charlotte.
I have to fulfill this duty for this guy. Yeah. What do you think, Nimbus? What are your thoughts on Ryan?
Yeah, like, I never sort of thought about Ryan in that emotional aspect. Like, he's always clearly been, as you said, the butt of the jokes and the comedic relief. But like, I mean, yeah, there's always been a really sort of sweet and genuine side to Ryan, and how Kevin, you put it into perspective, how like Ryan is always screwing up, and people are like, oh, what are you doing and stuff. Like, it's when you actually do think about that and you relate it to real people in real life with real circumstances, that is really, really sad, because I've even been in positions like that where I felt like really dumb and really stupid, and I just want to be a part of like the team. And then there's other people who are just like, oh, just stay out of it. Like, yeah, sort of an inconvenience, and it makes you feel sad. It makes you feel helpless, and then you sort of just feel down.
Because your intent is always you're trying to do your best. You're always trying to do your best. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have good intentions, like, because you actually care.
Yeah.
But then, like, you know, people sort of walk over you, and then you sort of take a back seat. Actually seeing that in Ryan is sad. And it's good that he gets redemption at the end. Like, it's good that, like, really, well, herself understands and realizes how important Ryan is to her and everybody else. And them playing at the beach, like, obviously the end credit music is also very emotional.
Oh god, that always gets to me. That always makes me tear up.
It drives it in. And like, yeah, like that. I feel like any ending sequence to all Xenoblade games is emotional, and obviously we'll be getting into more of that later.
Oh yeah.
But, we'll have a lot to say.
Is that part? I feel like definitely stood out to me the most in the credit sequence of Xenoblade 1. I felt like because like how they'd all been wishing like for a world to just live. You know, they don't want to live in a world. They want to be able to move together into the future, and then like it's just that human simplicity that is emotional because it's like, oh, how I've missed this, how we've missed this. Like you take things for granted, like a simple activity like going fishing. Like you don't realize how special that actually is after like all the turmoil that everyone's been through.
You had to fight for that in Xenoblade 1.
Yeah. You have to fight for this human basics and like just simple, really simple-minded happiness. But that simple-minded happiness is literally like something worth striving for.
Yeah.
And seeing Ryan the way that is, he deserves it. But it's really, really emotional.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that very specific thing about Xenoblade 1 Nimbus because I said this in a video about Xenoblade 1 where it was like my video in defense of Xenoblade 1, and I said like that game, the story in that game, what it all boils down to in the end for me is that moment where Alvis is like, Shulk, you need to make your decision. What are you gonna do in this world now that you have ascended to that god level status? And he's like, I don't want to do anything. And then all his friends come out and they're like, Shulk, we don't want to be gods, we just want to be us, we want to be like friends, we want to just live our lives. And Ryan's line is very good. I don't remember exactly what he says, but he's like, waking up every morning, eating grub, doing all this stuff. He just talks about like everyday things, and he's like, that's what we want to do. That's what we're fighting for, and that's what we will continue to do. And yeah, Ryan always.
I really appreciate that bit. Like, not only is like that is a really great like philosophical bit because everyone is kind of sharing slightly different philosophical views.
Yeah.
Like I think Fiora definitely takes like a what do they call it? They call it like a libertarian
you said like in one of the episodes you said it was like a libertarian utilitarian something.
What was it? It's about determinism. So it's like this it's like the libertarian idea where it's like anything is possible. There are a million possibilities out there. It's like whatever else.
She says that in the final boss.
Exactly. And then Shulk is more of like soft determinism, where he's like, all right, certain things are gonna happen, but we have more choice and agency. And then Ryan is just like, I don't like. It's fine, man. I'm good. Like I don't care. He's just going with the flow, and I really appreciate that. Even as much as I love seeing the different philosophical perspectives, I love that his perspective is just like, whatever happens, I'm here for it. Like
and even though we don't get to see Ryan in the future, we see his legacy with Panacea, which is nice. And Shulk is proud of her, so that's all we need to know. Ryan succeeded. All right. My Xenoblade 1 moment, I wanted to get this video up because I wanted to like talk about the dialogue that's in it as well, but first, like, if I click away, I will lose the webcam, so I'll just talk about it first. It is basically a optional moment. You can entirely miss it. In my first playthrough of the game, I didn't even realize that this was there. So basically, when you like when Dixon shoots Shulk and you get back to the Machina village, there is a part in the game where you control Melia. You're like controlling Melia and you have to go talk to Fiora, right? And you, like, me playing the game for the first time, I just like went and talked to Fiora, advanced the story. But what you can do is you can go inside of Junks and go to where Shulk is being kept unconscious, and Linata is there, and she's like, oh, he's getting better, but like he's still unconscious, we don't know what we're gonna do. And then you can interact with Shulk, and then like Melia is like, oh, Shulk, what's happening, what's going on? And then she's like, Linata is still here. So what you can do is you can make it nighttime, Linata is gone, and Melia just pours her heart out to Shulk because this girl has never been able to vocalize and express her feelings to this guy that she loves. Like, she has genuine feelings for someone in her like 100-year-long life that she's probably never ever felt, and it's for this like random Homs nerdy mechanic guy. And at first she was like, oh, who are these people so beneath me, like who are these guys, who are these like Homs coming into my life, like who are they? And then she realizes the lengths at which they are going to like make a change in the world and help her, like this like hi-fi princess, like why would they care about me? And they like go out of their way to help her. So let me read some dialogue. Hold on.
Melia.
Yeah, she's like, she's like, you must get up, the world needs you, I need you, we all need you. And then she's like, maybe you're lost, perhaps you feel hopeless, but please stay with me a little longer. And then she was like, wait, let me fast forward this a bit because it's going slow. Okay, she's like, since I first met you, it's as if my life is turned upside down. It's been an unending chain of anxiety, worry, and sadness. I've experienced much pain, father's death, losing my people. Just thinking about it's all difficult and it's hard to hold back tears. I want to grieve for everything lost, but I do not. But because I still have hope in you. You have kept me strong. You, Charlotte, Ricky, everyone. You've all stood by me and given me so much strength. Cannot even begin to put my words into gratitude. And then she's like, out of everyone, you've given the most for me. It is even because of you that, oh, it's going too fast. But she's like, I've given you nothing in return. What can I do for you? So like that's more than enough. Like you guys can watch the cutscene, it's very good. But and then eventually she gets like so overcome with emotion, she almost like it sort of implies that she like reaches in to like kiss him, and she's like, what the heck am I doing? Like I'm so like overcome with emotion, like what's wrong with me right now? And like everyone gets on like poor Melia, poor Melia, poor Melia. And like, yes, definitely poor Melia, she like went through so much, but like I never understood why it turned into like that much of a meme. Like when you see moments like this, you think back throughout the entire game how so much emotion is just bottled up inside of her, and this is the only time she gets to express it. Because like think about it, like she's like holding all these emotions, and like right when she feels like confident to like approach Shulk about something, her dad dies. And then right after that, she's like confident to like express something again. The girlfriend that we all thought was dead is actually like back, and now she's like regained consciousness, and she's not just a mechon. So like imagine what's going through her mind. Like of course she's not like jealous or anything. Maybe deep down inside she is, but like she has to like reconcile all of those feelings and just put them to rest while still being like present in this like freaking war against the Mechon and then the Bionis. Like there's so much is happening. This is the only time she gets to express her emotions. And then so many people are like, oh, the love triangle is like silly. Oh, the love triangle is like such bad writing. And like, yeah, it's not like the greatest romance story in the world, but like I feel like so many people can almost relate to that. Like you see like someone you have so strong feelings for, and then they're with someone else, and you're like, how can I be better? What could I have done to like fill that spot? Like, and then like Melia says something like that. She realizes Fiora's been with Shulk ever since the beginning. They've grown up together, and then she's like, hey Melia, if I'm ever like if something ever happens to me because of my Machina body, please be there for Shulk and all that. And then when she walks away, Melia's like, I can never be that person. Like she says something like that, and you're like, dang, like you can't help but feel for her. And then you think about all that she's gone through. Like that moment in particular is where it's like expressed. She's like vocalizing her feelings, her thoughts, and her emotions. But then you obviously like look forward into Xenoblade 3 as well. She's captured for 1,000 years, and she's like, she can see everything that's happening. Like she says in the end of the game, she's like, I saw it all through that robot Melia. I saw it all. So like imagine going through like torture in your youth, and then going through like 1,000 years of torture in your adulthood, and then what, like, I'm like the biggest Melia fan, like #1 waifu, like she's my favorite character ever in Xenoblade. But the one thing that a lot of Melia fans say to like combat all this, like, oh, poor Melia, oh, like love triangle, oh, whatever, to combat all of that, they're like, think about how much pain she's been through, and then look at her in her hero quest. She's still smiling, she's still optimistic, she's still like trying to do good in this world, trying to make a change, and you're like, who else can go through so much like pain and misery and still come out the other side like still wanting to like be like a good person? Because like you see it in Xeno as well, like in this whole series, people go through levels of like depression and sadness, and like they go through the worst of it, but they don't come out the right way. They come out as like vengeful, angry, terrible people. Yes, yeah, Melia could have been Mobius. Melia could have become Mobius, and yeah, like Mobius, perfect. Like it's there from the start. It's there from the start. But yeah, that's my thing with Melia. That one cutscene in Machina Village, like when I like I said, I didn't see it in my first playthrough, but then I saw it on YouTube, and as I saw that footage, I was like tearing up. I was like, holy shit, how did I miss this? Like, this is like one of the like strongest moments from like my favorite character in the game. So like when I did my New Game Plus, I made sure to like watch it and like experience that moment. But yeah, that's Melia.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever heard of that like bonus cutscene. Like, I don't think
I saw it.
Yeah, I'll show it to you guys. It's very good. It's not voiced, unfortunately, but she has a lot of like really emotional dialogue in there, and you're like, you just wanna hug her, man. Like she's been through so much. It's so sad. Yeah. Poor Melia, but like,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I'll be coming back around to that at some point.
Yeah.
One little bit with that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you said it the best.
Yeah,
I think you explained everything perfectly about why her circumstances are just, they suck. They really, really suck compared to everybody else in the party for Xenoblade 1. Like, I mean, everyone's going through their own sadness and trauma. Like, you know, Sharla with, what's his name?
Gatto.
Jadeface.
Gatto.
Sharla with Gatto, and obviously, like, Shulk with, like, Dixon and all that. Dunban with Munkar. But, like, I feel like Melia is just, like, like, she looks left, she looks right. It's just, like, it's just chaos and depression.
Yeah, it's sad. She has so much like trouble, like for her entire life. She's had like serious family drama. Like her stepmother hates her. Her like half sister hates her. Her father and her brother are like love her, but like it's still a very like it's a different kind of relationship. And then she's like the final hope. When her father says that to her, she's like, I can't do it. Like, I'm still so young as a high-entian woman. Like, how can I do this? And then eventually she's forced into that place when she sees like literally more than half of her entire like people, her like entire nation just exterminated and turned into Telethia. So she's forcefully put into that position, but she very gracefully like gets into that role of ruler, which we see in Future Connected. I love that we saw that in Future Connected. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do we?
What character?
Oh yeah, definitely. Do we want to move on to Xenoblade 2?
Probably.
I'm not ready.
Yeah. Okay, Nimbus, you can go on ahead. We'll keep the same order.
Okay. Cool. So. Again, lots of emotional moments. And it's funny because, like, when we were brainstorming for this episode of the Conduit Cast, like, because Xenoblade 2 is the one that was, like, furthest back that I played, because, like, both Xenoblade 3 and Xenoblade Definitive Edition, they're a little bit more recent that I've actually played
fresh
them.
in our minds.
So, fresh, yeah. I had to really think, what were the moments in Xenoblade 2 that made me emotional? I'm like, yeah, sure, like, all the endgame stuff, but I'm like, that's always typical. But, like, I was really trying to think back what was unique to me when like I got to that moment in the game where I was like, I had to like stop and actually take in everything. And that was when the party gets to Elysium. And I don't mean like when they like come up the elevator and then they look out and it's like space, like that's cool. But like I mean like when like the whole game you've been getting these visions like provided by like Pyre and Mithra of like Elysium. It's these like lush rolling green hills. And like it's funny because like I didn't expect what we're gonna get in Xenoblade 2. Like despite playing Xenoblade 1, I was still going into like the belief like, yeah, like we're actually gonna get to like the top of this actual tree. There's gonna be, you know, like a whimsical like god on a cloud up there. There's gonna be like, you know, yeah, obviously lush greenery and like little forest spirits and stuff like that. I actually thought that. But then obviously like it's complete opposite.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but when Rex and the party walk into where the church is, and you can hear like the bells ringing, like, oof, that's emotional.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a desolate wasteland. It's just there's nothing. Like it's just dust and dirt and like just ruins everywhere.
And you see it in Rex's reaction. You hear his voice. He's like, he's thinking, he's like, I've spent so long dreaming about this moment. I've spent so long like traveling all the freaking world to get to this place, and it's a freaking dumpster. And then he thinks about everything he's seen in Allrest, all the misery, all the terrible corruption and all that. And he's like, what are we doing? Like, and this is like the paradise. Like, what is the world? Like he gets his like nihilism moment there. Yeah.
Yeah, it really sets in, and like he just like throws his fist to the ground. It's just like it shouldn't be like this. Like why is this the way it is? And everyone else is just like they're also like very like, you know, what, solemn about or whatever the word is, and they're just like, oh, you know, it looks like people used to live here. And then like you see like when like he runs up to the tricycle and he touches it, and then it just like evaporates, and it's like, oh my god, like it makes you think, did it turn to dust the way it did like after the experiment? Was it the moment the experiment happened that it was basically like ground zero for like a nuclear bomb? Like, do you think all the people living in there, like, because there would have been people in there like while the battles are happening outside with like the artificers and all that crap. And then like when Klaus activated the conduit, is that when it happened? Like everyone they were gone. Yeah. Or was it like over time, like even after the experiment, it just fell to decay because people did die and disappeared into other dimensions and stuff. And then like the place just, because it wasn't looked after and there was nobody there to care for it, it just gradually just like was like what is that?
That's how I read it, like the latter.
Yeah. So like either way, like it turned to like rumble. It turned to rubble and like dust and decay, and it's just sad because like the piano melody, and it's just like it really sets in and it makes you think like, oh, what's next? Like where do we go from here? What do we do? And like sure, the church is sort of luring you in because like you can hear the bells. You go to the church, but it's like I took my time exploring that area while listening to that background track, and it just I just had to like stop and just like look at the scenery, and I don't know, like I just thought it was really emotional because it just sort of like everything just dropped then and there. And it's like like that's really disappointing, and it's just everyone's gone. Like there's nothing left.
I think it works so much for that story because that's kind of like what it's kind of building to. It's all about like how far are you willing to go to protect this world that's ultimately dying right before your eyes, and like you get there right after Moritha, which is just another completely destroyed civilization. Yeah, and then you go up there and there's just nothing left. So I think Xenoblade 2, a big theme of it is the like dealing with nihilism, and I think that's kind of what Rex is experiencing through the world, like through the actual environmental design. In that moment, he's confronted by especially in that moment, because it's Elysium, because it's, you know, the dream that had built up for so long, he's confronted by the idea that, you know, all this stuff just like withers away over time.
Yeah, and he tried so hard to stay positive the whole journey, because like he's like positivity and Ouroboros and hope, like incarnate.
Yeah.
And he's just tried his best to be that shining light in the darkness, and just for that darkness to kind of catch up, and he feels hopeless, and like that's why it really hurts, because it's just kind of like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I was there with you. Like, I was hoping that like things would be okay, but it just seems to be getting worse. Like, the more you unearth the past of that world, the worse it actually gets. Like, and that's what's so cool about Xenoblade is like, this game's all about the future. It's all about wanting to change the future. The second game, it's got this rich history, this past that you have to unearth and uncover. Like, what are the secrets of the past? Like, it is a very old, really old world. Yeah. And then obviously Xenoblade 3 is all about being obsessed about what's happening now.
Yeah. Xenoblade 2 is about legacy.
Present.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and Xenoblade 2 is really about like, how do we preserve our legacy, and how do we like have how are our actions right now going to affect the future and affect like people like thousands and thousands of years in the future as well. So yeah, that one moment really encapsulates that. But Nimbus, I don't know if you remember, one of our other friends, Zoo, flipping the switch Zoo, he was in the middle of Xenoblade 2, and he like guessed it. He was like, oh, you know, it'd be like insane if Rex gets all the way up to the top and it's just like a barren wasteland. There's like nothing there. What's gonna, because he caught on to the nihilism themes very quickly when he like saw Rex, when he saw Malus, when he saw Jin, Pyra and Mithra and all that. He's like, yeah, there's nihilism going on here. What would happen if he goes up to the top and there's nothing there? And I was just like, oh, I can't say anything. And he guessed it, and he was very happy that he was right. He would have been. Yeah, but that is a great moment, most definitely. Kevin, what's your Xenoblade 2 moment?
I feel like I've talked about this one before, and you're gonna hear me talk about it again in my Xenoblade 2 video.
Yes.
But the other great theme, and the theme that I hold on to so much with Xenoblade 2, is the overarching theme of love. And no scene encapsulates that greater than this one, I think. This is the end of chapter 6.
It's good.
When Rex becomes the master driver and Numa finally is revealed as Pyra and Mithra combining together. This scene genuinely hit me so hard. So this is like after we have our kind of party split moment. We have this like really brutal scene where the party like just can't like, they can't move on anymore. You know, they get completely destroyed by Jin and Malus and the artifices and stuff.
It's a roller coaster of emotions. That whole
Pyra sacrifices herself. She threatens to annihilate herself, like literally, which would kill her and Rex as well. And you just like, Rex gets completely like pushed down to his lowest moment, and then you have to like build up from that, and it's like it gets really dour. And then you go through so much. You go through the caves under Fawnset Village. You get the third Aegis sword, and now it's like you're finally rematching with Jin and Malus, and it's just in that scene where Rex is fighting Malus, and there's like the projection of Pyra and Mithra, and they just keep telling him to stop, because it's like they're just like, we're not worth it. We're like, you've been through too much. Like, you gotta quit while you're ahead.
And that's when they reveal their like whole goal the entire time.
Yeah, that's when they reveal, as I state in my video, the most elaborate suicide attempt in history. That they are trying to see the architects so that they could die, because they just have been sealed away for the past 500 years. But over the course of this game, their relationship that they've built up has been so strong, and Rex holds onto it so close that he can't let it go at this point. That he is not only here for himself anymore, but he's here for everyone. He's especially here for them, because like on this journey he has learned, not that he was a selfish character in the start, but he has learned to exist like not solely within himself, to exist in a larger community, to exist as a part of a partnership, a couple, depending on a couple, a thruple, a quadruple, you know, things get a little wacky in Xenoblade 2. But like that is, I think that was so powerful when you see was it Siren? Or yeah, you see Siren, but it's like
Siren,
this and they
it's not Ion,
you know, they
I don't
come
think
back
it's Ion,
together.
yeah.
I think Ion is the final boss, right?
Yeah, I don't remember if it was Ion or Siren. It was
Like,
one
I'm
of
trying
those.
to remember this. And then of course Pyra and Mithra completing each other, which is like it's the literal unifying power of love that brought us all here. And then we finally get Pyra and Mithra essentially like self-actualizing, like they're finally overcoming all of their faults and flaws that we've seen throughout the whole game, and they form a whole. They form the true self. They take like, it's almost like, now that I think about it, it's kind of like it's like Mithra's the animus and Pyra's the anima, and they combine finally to make Numa.
You know what thought is going through my head right now? You guys need to play Xenogears.
Like,
you need to roll.
I think you're thinking about Gears, I know. Yeah.
There's so much Xenogears in that entire segment. Like, so many things. Like, I can't say.
So it's like, it's just such an incredibly impactful and deep moment, and like the music is incredible, and like the performances,
that's my favorite song in the game. Yeah.
Although you could criticize the performances, I think like when you're in that scene, when you're engaged in it, it just genuinely, it gets you so much.
Yeah.
And I absolutely, like, I can't forget to mention Jin and Malice's performances in this scene, because like they're incredible as well. And then afterwards we get the whole Endbringer stuff, and I mean, I could have a whole other segment talking about Malice because he's my favorite antagonist. But like
it's incredibly
that scene
emotional.
moved me so much.
It is so Xenoblade 2 is a game where I went through the game, really enjoyed it, really resonated with the moments, but it is upon the rewatches of those cutscenes where I got really emotional, and this is one of them. Like, like even now watching it, it gets me emotional because of the things that Rex says, and especially when you get to that cliff, and like before that even, I was saying it's a roller coaster of emotion, because after you lose Pyro, you're back in Tantal, and Rex is ready to go home. He's like, I'm done with this. Like, look what we did. Like, look what happened. And then, like, everyone, like, brings him back. Like, Poppy and Bridget and Nia kind of knock some sense into him, and they're like, we can do this. We can do this. And then eventually you go to the Spirit Crucible. It's a tough experience. Nia has her moment. I'll get to that later. So that's, like, so much emotion there. Then you get to the Cliffs of Mortha, the battle music changes, and you're like, you're excited, you're hyped, you're like, we can do this. You get to the top, Malos literally like throws Pyra's like lifeless body to you, and you're like, holy shit, like we tried so hard, we were so close, we were so close. And then after that, like Rex has like this whole speech, like I used to remember like a lot of the dialogue moments of it, but I can't remember it like in the moment right now, but it's very good. And then of course is Join Me.
One that gets me, Join Me of course, but like I will not watch the world burn for a second time.
Yes. Yeah, that. And the like when you see like Pyra, like she basically looks like she's dead, she's gone, and like Rex is fighting and he's like, it can't end like this. That's the one that got me. He's like, it can't end like this. And you know in your head, you're like, shit, like, is it really over? Like, I thought to myself, I was like, how in the world can they come back? And in the moment, I didn't know why they came back, but looking back at it, like, in my head, I was like, oh, it's just anime-ness, like, they just got back because power of friendship, but, like, there is, like, legitimate reasons why they did come back, because they're Aegises, they have their backups, they got it back, like, a lot of Xenogears stuff as well, which I can't talk about, but, like, that moment where Rex says that, it really got to me, and I was like, shit, like, he was doing this for them, and he really was, and he says that later on, like, I'm doing this for you, I want you guys to get there, I'm doing it for all of us, but I'm doing it for you too, so, like, it was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the power of love, it's a big deal, and for that story in particular, it just it resonates really deeply, I think.
Yeah. I will talk about my Xenoblade 2 moment. I don't know how I'm going to talk about this. I have a lot to say about this, but I'll try to keep it brief and I'll try to explain it the best way as I can. But this, like, I was saying before, like, a lot of Xenoblade 2 moments, like, they didn't hit me as much in the moment, but they hit me more, like, upon rewatches. But this one, I remember I was, like, playing it in handheld, sitting back on my bed over there, and this was the one that got me to tear up, like, as I was experiencing it for the first time, because I was like, it's such a, like, everyone talks about how Xenoblade 2 is like an outlandish game, like, oh, so anime, like, of course, like, anime-ness, like, the thing about outlandish is because, like, a lot of these things, like, they're not, like, realistic, even, like, some of the interactions and the dialogue. This felt so genuine, this one moment with Nia and Rex, but the lead up to it was very great too. Like, you get into Spirit Crucible, and people, like, no one really knows what it is, so you go in there and all the blades are like, oh god, I can't do anything, oh, because, like, it's sucking all the ether out of you. And then Zeke feels it because he's a blade eater, he's got a bit of Pandoria in him as well, and he's like, oh guys, I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna be a little tough for me to, like, get through this, it's gonna be tough. And then you see Zeke and Pandoria's backstory and all that, and then you see Nia, and Nia's like suffering, and they're like, I don't remember exactly what they say to her, but they're like, hey Nia, what's going on? And she's just like, oh, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm totally fine. And you know that, like, something is up, something is not right, and she's just trying to, like, push it away, push it aside. And eventually you get to a point where she reveals her, like, backstory, like, and you get, like, hints of it throughout the game. Like, when you get to Torgoth, she's like, oh, Torgoth, it just hasn't changed, it's still the same. And, like, you're like, oh, she has history here, like, what's her history in Torgoth and all that. And then you see when Vandam dies, she, like, holds her chest, she's like, I could have done something, and you're like, what does that mean? And then, of course, the hot tub scene is hinting at something about Nia, and you're like, oh, what could it be? And then eventually when Niall dies, she revives him, and, like, she wants to do it so, like, no one can see her doing it. And you're like, oh, okay, so is Nia actually a blade? Like, what's going on? And then she's trying to hide this, obviously, but then in this Spirit Crucible, she's like, I am put in a situation now where I can't hide it anymore. And then eventually she reveals her backstory. I don't remember exactly how she presents it, but she says, like, hey, this is what happened. And then, like, it's just kind of up to interpretation from the cast, like, what does this mean? And then eventually you fight the freaking Atom Phantasms, which is a really annoying boss.
Yeah. But you fight Organization 13.
Yes, you fight the freaking Kingdom Hearts guys. And then eventually she, like, says, no more, I can't hide this anymore. And the whole, like, dialogue with her and Rex is so, like, it's so real. Like, you feel like this is just, like, genuine raw, like, emotion that she's expressing to Rex. Like, she's like, I'm not afraid anymore, and it's because of you. Like, it's because of everything that we've experienced and everything that has got us to this point that I, like, don't feel like I can hide myself anymore, because I just feel comfortable sharing it with you guys. And that was great. And I was yeah. Everyone memes on this moment, obviously, because of Rex's response to it. And the whole thing about Rex's response is it's really funny in the moment, but it's another very genuine moment. It's another very wholesome moment, but it's I don't know how else to describe this, but it's almost like I felt like myself in that moment, and I don't know how else to describe it, because like I saw myself in Rex a lot throughout Xenoblade 2, but that moment in particular where he's like just put on the spot, where he's like, holy shit, like,
he's confused, Pog.
He's confused, he is flabbergasted, he is astonished, he's like blown away, but he's also like a mix of emotions. Like, that was a very just in the moment genuine response, and in that moment I just got it. I got it. I was like, I know what he's saying, and it was a very relatable moment. I don't know how else to say it, because it just feels like I was there in that moment. I was like, I get you for many reasons, but it's great that, like, you see Nia is so closed off throughout her entire time in Xenoblade 2, and especially in the early game. If you see that cutscene with them in the crow's nest of that ship when they're going into find the Aegis and all that, and she's like, dude, like, what are you saying? This whole Elysium stuff, like, what's up? Like, you're one of the craziest guys I've ever had the chance to, like, talk to about all this stuff. And she just doesn't take him seriously. And then think about that Nia, and the Nia who, like, Rex had to, like, convince. He's like, hey Nia, come with us. Like, I know you said, like, when we got to Torgoth you would leave, but, like, come with us. I think we need someone like you. Like, think about that Nia versus the Nia we see reveal her flesh eater self that she's ashamed of. So, like, it's yeah, and my love for Nia is, like, as much as my love for Melia, almost equivalent. They're like number one, number two, they're up there. And yeah, it's a great moment. It always makes me emotional whenever I see it.
I think Nia's whole arc is so strong, even down to her arc design, because in her initial character design, her outfit is literally a onesie with a hood. She is concealing everything about herself. Yeah. She's hiding, like, physically and emotionally. It's like, and then when she transforms, it's like you can see the core crystal. It's like she has accepted herself, and she's finally showing herself to everyone else. I just thought that scene was so powerful, and just, like, her journey is some really profound writing.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah,
I do think that, like, how she tried to hide that for so long, and then like you said, it got to that point where she couldn't hide it any longer because of the circumstances with Spirit Crucible Elpis and, like, the ether draining. But, like, yeah, thematically speaking, like, it was really important because, like, she finally felt close enough to everybody in the party, and especially Rex, considering it's like a Melia situation with her feelings and all that. But, like, yeah, that's like a big deal. And, like, if you want to kind of, like, look at it in a way of, like, you know, when she transforms and, like, she's showing a bit more skin, it's a little bit more revealing. Like, that is, like, a visual representation of her, like, being more open about, exactly, like, who she is and her emotions and, like, what she's been through. Like, I know people like, oh, you know, it's ecchi fan service, which, yes, it is, but I also kind of see it like maybe it was also a deliberate design choice.
100%.
Because
I definitely think it is.
Exposing herself, like, on an emotional level.
Yeah, there's a lot of storytelling in that look as well.
Yeah.
Pyro and Mithra are the opposite.
Yeah, Pyro and Mithra are the opposite. Yeah, that's why
Because they're incomplete. They're incomplete, so their outfits are also incomplete, and then Numa's outfit is complete.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing there. She's hiding, and then she's open.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intentional for sure.
Yeah, with Nia, like that confession, she says like, what's the point in hiding anymore if like I feel this way? And like confessing your feelings in that way to like anyone it's not an easy thing to do, but her response to what Rex says is even more wholesome, because Rex says what he says. He's like, I love you, Nia, and then he says I love you, Nia, and then she's like, oh, what? He said that, and then he says I love you and I love everyone, so let's do this together. And then her face kind of just falls a bit. She's like, oh, is that what he meant? But then she like laughs, and then she gets it too, and you're like, she gets it. It's good.
That line, of course, goes places.
Oh yeah. Oh, it does. But one more quick thing before we move on to Xenoblade 3 is there is a post-battle dialogue, because like Xenoblade 1 and 2, and 3 does this as well, but Xenoblade 1 and 2 has some like really genuinely long dialogue pieces for like post-battle for whoever you have in your party. So if you have Blade Nia equipped to Rex, and if you finish a battle, they have this dialogue where Rex says something like, hey Nia, do you want to talk about like that moment where, and she's like, oh, what? Oh, Rex, like don't worry about that, we can talk about that later, I know what you're talking about. Like it's a really nice bit of dialogue as well. So
nice.
They planted the seeds from the start, I'm telling you guys, like they did.
Yeah, well, I'm sure Rex planted his seeds.
He did. We see.
Well, he most certainly did, but we saw it. We quite literally saw it.
Yeah. Future redeemed.
Sorry, I had to go there.
Yeah, that's funny. All right, Xenoblade 3. I'm looking forward to hear what all of us have to say, but I like yours, Nimbus. So I want to hear what you have to say about yours.
Oh man,
Xenoblade 3.
Xenoblade 3.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. It's taken me a really long time to realize and accept how amazing Xenoblade 3 is.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, it is that kind of game.
Well, yeah, like all I'll say is like when I first like played through the game and beat it, I'm like, oh, like yeah, that was a great game. But I'm like, I felt like after Chapter 5, instead of like things kind of felt a bit rushed. Things felt like they're a little bit like really incomplete actually, and I'm like, this game isn't really tying to the other games that how I want it to. Like, you know that the worlds are fused and then they come apart and stuff, but it's like, oh, I really wanted them to go into more lore that connected to the other games. Like, I'm like, where are these lore connections? So at the time, I was way too focused on like the fan service elements of like, connected to the other games. Like, you need to satisfy me as the fan. Like, where's my satisfaction? But holy crap, like, dude, I'll tell you what, like, after getting Future Redeemed, because that answers a lot.
Yeah.
After getting Future Redeemed, after getting the Takahashi explanations in Ionos moment, and also, like, all of, like, the Xenoblade theorists, you know who I'm talking about, especially. After, like, so many people on YouTube and the internet coming together, like, collectively coming together to basically decipher the thematics behind Xenoblade 3, in tandem with what both Future Redeemed and Ionos moments gives us, it, like, after, like, rewatching the cutscenes and playing Xenoblade 3 base game, everything actually makes a lot of sense. It makes
so much more sense, you're right.
You see where Takahashi was coming from, and, like, on an emotional level, basically the whole game is like, I feel things, man. Like, the whole way through, I'm feeling things. So, I love the new perspective that I've got on the game now, because I'm like, it really is like that peak culmination of Xenoblade.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it's like bundled with Future Redeemed. So this is my segue. So my favorite moment from Future Redeemed, as like we couldn't talk about Chapter 5. So Xenoblade 3 / Future Redeemed. I know initially I said about possibly going with the sacrifice of N and M, like to take out Zed at the end. Because yeah, that's emotional, and like the music, the way it like carries itself and it peaks and stuff, like it's emotional. But I had to really sort of ask myself, what was it that like I lost it? Like, just I couldn't control the overflowing emotions, and I did want to avoid like credit sequences, but I couldn't help it. Basically, the whole ending sequence of Future Redeemed is just it's insane emotionally. Like I felt so many different things. Like I was hyped, like I was like sad, like I was excited, like I was overflowing with like, you know, the weight of life.
Yeah, very literally, yeah, that song. Yeah.
So like it's just like when like they're trying to take out Alpha, and then how like that realization and awakening of like when N was like, oh, Matthew, like imbue like the power
Release
of
the
Ouroboros.
power of
like,
Ouroboros!
Yeah, so like the kiss at the end. And then he's just like, you know, with my sword at the end. And then he's like, what? And he's like, shut the hell up already! So, and then like basically the contact of Numa and Malos, like or Logos, I should say.
Yeah,
like
it's perfect.
it basically it had to happen to send a message to Ontos to be like, dude, wake up, like wake the frig up. Like
Yeah.
I just that like thematic writing was amazing,
So
and
good.
like oh, it's hype, and like
What an
the way
amazing
like
final boss.
when like the Numa Ouroboros wave like flies out from like the sword of the end, and the way that like the Ouroboros tower, like the energy like surges over everybody.
And then
like,
it zooms
the way
in on A's face, and you
Yes!
yeah, it's just so good.
And then like it's like her eyes just like widens, like, and then like the music just oh my god, it's like it's so emotional. Like, and then like that in itself was emotional, and then obviously like, you know, when like after that, and then Origin falls, and then like you got like this split in the clouds, and then like it's just like Matthew and Anne on the cliffside, and just the aesthetics of like the raindrop like sunlight just coming through the clouds.
Do you remember what Matthew's line was? There's that one line that Matthew said, like, Anne was like, Mobius will never change, we will continue the endless now forever. And then Matthew was like, someone in the future will come, and someone in the future will make a difference. We will continue that legacy. Maybe it will be you. And I just went like, holy shit, he did not just say that. I was like, that is the most like... That is one of the best lines of dialogue I ever heard in the series. I was like... And I was like, Matthew is like the himbo. He doesn't know what he's saying, but in that moment, he just like... He like said something.
He doesn't know he's predicting the future.
Generations. It shook the generations. Those words. Yeah.
And obviously, when you get to the credit sequence and Future Awaits plays, and yes, I know it's got ties to Xenosaga for obvious reasons. We all know why. And that was such a deliberate choice. And like then you see the other perspective, like the outside perspective of what it looks like when the world's split, but then they come back together when Origin correctly activates and we're all able to fuse together properly. Like just
it's a perfect interlink. That's what it is. It's a perfect interlink.
Yeah, perfect interlink. Yeah, exactly. And like just how like it plays in with the music, and it's just like I couldn't believe it because I was playing handheld mode and had my headphones on, so I was like fully immersed with the sound, and I'm just like there the whole time, just like jaw drop, just like that whole ending sequence, and I'm like trying not to cry because it's like being like this big Xenoblade fan, and then it shows you like the past games through the credits, and like, oh, look how far we've come, look where like we all began, look how everyone like came together, and like all our trials and tribulations, and then we were all able to work together as one and unify, and you know how like Takahashi is so good at like bringing things together.
Oh yeah.
And just like it giving you that sense of completion, satisfaction as a Xenoblade fan, and giving you that hint for the future, and just being like, oh, it's the end, like thank you for being on this emotional journey, but also, you know, you never know what's around the corner. Like every winding road, every branching path has a possibility. It's that culmination is what made it emotional. It's like everything was just all there, and I just man, it's beautiful, and that's what makes it emotional. It's just beauty incarnate.
Yeah,
and
most
I
definitely.
love it so much.
It feels like scaling a mountain. So it's like you're finally at the end of the whole saga. And especially like I played all of these games in 2023, one after the other. So it's like
Yeah,
it was just like a big chunk of like months of my life and like 240 hours of gameplay over 6 games, including the expansions. And I'm just like, I did it. It's over.
Yeah.
I did it all. And you just sit there and you're like, it just washes over you. It's just like, it really is the culmination of all the things that they've been building up, and it makes you like, it gives a lot of closure, but it also opens up things like for a completely unknown future.
Yeah.
It gives a lot of closure to previous characters. I mean, one of my favorite parts of the ending is Shulk, Rex, and A like departing.
Yeah.
Like sharing their life force with everyone. I can't show it because of my camera, but I have an artist rendition of that frame of them all walking into like the like light pillar.
Yeah.
I have that framed.
Kevin, thank you for mentioning that, because I completely bypassed it. Like I was obviously going to mention it like with what I was talking about, but I think because I got so wrapped up,
Yeah,
I just couldn't to say anything about it. But no, dude, you're absolutely right. Like that is so emotional, because they're like, oh, we're just taking a break. Like, you know, like we got to rest our eyes a bit. Yeah. It's like, oh man, it's like they're going.
Yeah, because in the moment I was like, wait, is this a goodbye? And I was like, in a way it is, but like, in my head I was like, no, when the worlds combine together, they're gonna be there. They're gonna be like, cracking open a cold one, chilling with each other, like, in the same world. Like, imagine that.
Like, I think, yeah, they would be there, but like, I wonder, because it's like, when A was like, oh, you know it's against the rules, right? And they're like, oh, well, I think we deserve it. It's like they're taking over like Numa's and Logos's spot in like the Trinity processes. So it's like, are they spiritually like sacrificing themselves? That means like they will can't even English. They will stay within that new Trinity process. Does that mean that after like Origin works and the new world is there, do they get to come back, or are they then with A spiritually like looking over everyone? That's what I want to know.
I kind of hope we don't learn the answer.
My headcanon
just they leave it up in the air.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see Shulk and Rex in Xenoblade 4, but I think in my head, I think they are just upholding the system of Ionios. They're upholding that world, but then once the world comes together, they are back, because Nia does say at the end of Xenoblade 3 when she looks at the picture, "I will see you guys again soon." Yeah. So they're gonna be back, I think.
Yeah, that would make sense.
One thing I want to say about the credits though is I didn't realize this until after I beat Xenogears, and this is not a spoiler for Xenogears or anything, but so it is amazing that after Xenoblade having like gotten 3 different amazing female vocalists for their end credits themes. They got Sarah Alon for Beyond the Sky in Xenoblade 1. They got Jen Bird for One Last You in A Moment of Eternity in Xenoblade 2. They got Sarah Wida for the 2 songs. Where We Belong, and then A Step Away in Xenoblade 3. And then Jen Bird did Drifting Soul as well. But then for Future Redeemed, we hear this in the trailer as well, which blew a lot of people's minds, was we got Joanne Hogg back, and she is legacy Xeno. She did songs for Xenosaga, and she did 2 amazing songs for Xenogears as well. Like, you don't hear it, her first song in Xenogears, because it's an outtake. You can still hear it in the soundtrack, and you can go into the files of disc 2 and you can find it in there. But she does vocal arrangements for 2 very important songs in the game of Xenogears. One is Stars of Tears, which is like supposed to be like the intro song for the game, which would have fit so perfectly. But then the end credits theme is another like really emotional, like a tearjerker of a song called Small Two of Pieces. And like I don't want to talk about it too much because a lot of the lyrics tie back to the story of Xenogears, and they're very, very, very good lyrics, by the way. But there is a portion of that song that uses the flute, and it is literally a very distinctive, iconic melody. And then, color me surprised after I beat Xenogears last August, and then I watched the Monolith Soft 25th anniversary video where they play Future Awaits, and then I hear something that like sounds so familiar, and then I go back and I listen to Future Awaits, and they use that same flute melody from Small Two Pieces, and I was like, wow, they remember Xenogears, they remember it, they still care, like. And that melody is very important to specifically Xenogears. Like, you guys will see why, but oh gosh. When I made that connection, I was like, wow, this is truly the culmination of all things Xeno. Like, you see, like, the star falling, which is alluding to Xenosaga. You have the radio scene. You have Joanne Hogg coming back for the end. And then you have that small piece of Xenogears motif in there. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
It's a love letter to the fans.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I know in the notes we had, I mentioned that I have like one extra little thing to say.
Yes, yeah, I want you to talk about that too, yeah.
Do you want me to talk about that now or like after you guys?
Is it for Xenoblade 3?
Yeah, it's Xenoblade 3.
Oh, might as well.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
I'll just keep it brief because I know we dragged it out for like a good 20 odd minutes or so. But basically, this is more like, it's a very sort of broad thing where I get really emotional at the Mobius theme, like leitmotif. Like, I don't know if anyone really picks up on it, but like, it plays in a lot of Mobius-related areas and like segments in the game. And it stood out to me the most when I first entered Origin, and you hear like the Origin theme. Like, I don't want to like reenact it because it's going to be cringe, like me like humming it or whatever. But like, it's like the operatic like melody.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So like, it's just, and you hear it like specifically in the Mobius theme, like when it gets to like 1 minute 15, I'll just do it. It's like da da da. Yeah, like maybe like that gets really, really emotional, and like it's because Mobius is emotional. It's literally emotion incarnate, and it's like just like the last leg of like humanity's despair. Like it's trying to cling on to like fleeting life and existence itself. Like it's hanging on by a thread before like it just fades into like the void.
Yeah.
And I think like the leitmotif and the thematics of like the Mobius theme, like when you hear it play, like it's always that there's like pivotal and emotional moments like concerning Mobius, but like just like I don't even have to describe it into words, but it's just like it just really encompasses the whole theming of just like emptiness and despair in Xenoblade 3. And it's just like, in a way, it's like the lack of hope, that the hope's not there, like all is lost, like it's just, you feel so like bottled up.
You know what it also sounds like to me? It almost sounds like comfort within the stagnation. You're like, I am fine with this. I don't want to go forward. I am stagnating and I'm okay. That's also what like I hear from that as well. But you know, my favorite time that Mobius theme is used, it's one of my favorite songs in the game. It's called Noah and N, and you hear it when you fight N, the final battle with N in Origin, and then you hear it in Future Redeemed as well. That whole song is N's life in reverse. He's looking back throughout his life, because it starts with the Mobius theme, and then it has like some other like transition stuff, and then you hear the Ouroboros theme, and the Ouroboros theme is like him remembering like this man Noah was the person I used to be, and why am I this way? Because then it changes into the Agni and Offseer theme, not just the Offseer theme, the Agni and Offseer theme, because it's like, Mio is the reason I am here. Mio is the reason I'm still doing this.
Right. Yeah.
And
My Mio!
And then it goes in that circle, and it's such a perfect song. Like, this song is like telling its own story about this man who like fell into despair. Like, it's perfect. Peak.
Yeah, like
Peak.
his emotional journey, and like how like it's like the duality of like Ouroboros and like Mobius, and like that loop. It's that loop of emotions that just feedbacks into each other. And it's like, oh man, it's hype. It's so hype. Like, the musical pieces in Xenoblade 3 are so well thought out. And like, I'll admit, like, the overworld themes are a little bit lackluster. It's more ambient. But it's like the pivotal story elements in Xenoblade 3 where the music really swings hard. It swings so hard, and that's why it stands out. That's why I really want to talk about it. Because I feel like even though, like, the Weight of Life theme, how like that is a big prominent like and all that. It's, to me, I don't know, the Mobius one stands out so much more. Like, I feel more sadness from it, because it literally is just like humanity's like desperation, just unable to move on, and it's like they're just so lost, and that's what makes it sad.
But I gotta say, God of War Ragnarok OST is better. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, of course. Zesty knows what's best.
It's the memes.
I love the Mobius battle theme. That might be my favorite one. When you just going on like the OST, like when you get to the post game and you do Melia Nia's hero quests and you get Kaleidoscope Core and Brilliant Wings, that's peak. Just like it's insane.
So peak.
I love those two tracks.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I think it's time we move on.
Wait, Kevin, when you say your thing, I want you to quote it exactly how you said it in the Google Doc, because the way you said it in the Google Doc was so perfect. I love how.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so my section for Xenoblade 3, we're doing another ending again because, of course, the culmination, everything, it's just too perfect. So I wrote down for my segment pretty much the entire ending sequence, the scene where everyone has to say goodbye to each other, coupled with Where We Belong playing, always destroys my ass. Because, man, okay, so there is a lot going into this, obviously. So, Xenoblade 3, it is a game all about understanding those who seem to be the opposite of you. We have two sides of this war coming together, forming this party.
They've been made to hate each other their entire lives. Yeah.
Yes, learning things from each other in the story and in the gameplay. Like, you get all your classes, you get to change. Everyone learns every single class. You have these relationships forming within the party. Everyone is on the field at once. Everyone is constantly fighting alongside each other. Like, there's no different party comps. You just have everyone right there, all 6 party members. And at the end of it all, they have to say goodbye because they're from 2 different worlds. So everyone, they have, like, after you beat Zed, you basically, like, they have kind of a time vacuum where it's like, we don't know how much time was left where they could actually stay together, but then we fast forward to this scene where they have to say goodbye, and this is where we get Where We Belong, and it's just, this song encapsulates how profound this game's storytelling is to me. It encapsulates just the feeling of longing and like the love that everyone has built up over this game, and just this deep sadness that it's a song about parting. It's a song about, like, we will see each other again someday. Yeah,
they say,
and it's a song
about
it's
not the end. I'm sure we'll see each other again.
Yeah, it's a song about believing that they will reunite.
Yeah.
And it's just so heartbreaking to see, like, the 2 worlds start moving.
Yeah, and
they start like separating, and there's nothing they can do. And the scene that truly destroys me, the scene that really gets to me, is when everyone starts running full sprint at each other. And I cannot I don't know how to express how much I love this. I think it is genuinely one of the greatest expressions of love ever put to the screen. Like, I don't know how else to describe with a visual medium what loving someone that much feels like, other than those 6 characters just running towards each other, and then the fact that, like, Tyon falls to his knees, and then they're like waving goodbye, and like, it was just, it's a very bittersweet ending, because it's almost heartbreaking in a way, but you still feel so fulfilled, and you feel these characters have learned so much, and like gone through just this incredibly profound journey. And I really love what Noah says at the end about like progressing and learning, and like you will stumble on your way and it will not be perfect, but we have to just go. And then of course when he throws the Lucky 7 off the side of the tower, he's like, we're done fighting, like it's over, our war is over. Of course we have Nia looking at the picture, which is also what I would describe as an incredible expression of love in the series, although obvious picture discourse is obvious. And then we have another one, which is, it kind of puts fuel on the fire of the poor Melia meme, but we have Melia looking at the Monado Rex. And just there's like this longing there, this sadness of something that once was and is now gone.
Do you remember what she said? She's like, thank you all for everything you've done for me, or something like that. So she's not only, she's thinking of everyone. Like, she's thinking of Fiora, she's thinking of Dunban, and like even like Kino, Nene, Tyrea, all these people. And that's why, like, before, like, the art book, that's why everyone thought that Lucky 7 was everyone from Xenoblade 1 in that blade. But it makes it even more personal when you know that it's just Fiora in there, and she, like, I don't think really Melia had a choice to put Fiora in there. I think Fiora put herself in there, but it makes it more personal that that Lucky 7 is also Melia's, like, key to origin. And then she's looking at this Monado Rex, and she's remembering all her friends, and she's like, thank you guys. But
so, and then I love the ending theme. That it's I think it's my favorite one. All the ending themes are fantastic. That one just really got to me. I think when I watched the scene initially, it had me very stunned. I was kind of just in this state where it's like I can't speak. Like I'm so entranced that I can't like express what I'm feeling. And I only ever really feel that at like the end of the Return of the King. I'm like, when Frodo is like moving on to the Forgotten Lands, or I can't function. But it was quite recently where I sat in silence and I listened to that song on really good headphones and just thought about it and just like had it all wash over me, and I really just wept in that moment. Like I just felt it so strongly. I truly feel that Xenoblade 3 is probably like the game that has had the most profound impact on me, because its themes and its message just like really hit me in the right place at the right time. And I don't know what else to say. It just is something that's so like I feel so strongly about.
I like that you mentioned the quote that Noah says at the end, because that's very important. Like, it was almost like where I was at that point in my life, it was like he was saying that to me, and that really
that
hit
is
me.
How I felt.
And I think you hit the nail on the head pretty good. Like, I have a lot more to say about Xenoblade 3, the ending, and a lot of that stuff, but I want to save that for like future videos that I'm going to make. Like, I'll talk about that in my like in our collab video, which I'm doing on my channel about our Xenoblade memories. And then I also like want to like this is gonna be the third year of Xenoblade 3. Like in July, it'll be the 3-year anniversary, and I have like a I have a video in my mind of like how it like resonated with me personally. And a lot of that.
If I ever do a Xenoblade 3 analysis, it'll probably be the hardest script I will ever write, because I don't even know how. It's like I'm trying to describe it here just off the cuff, but when I'm writing a script, it's very different. I don't know.
Most definitely.
We'll see.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a great moment with like coupled in with the music, the things that happen. It's just it's good.
You see everyone you met along the way. All
you see the heroes as well. It's great.
Yeah, everyone kind of passes something on to each other before they say their goodbyes. But I don't really remember. Like Tyon gives Uni a leaf.
He gives her the tea, the tea book, the book of tea.
It is,
and then Uni was like, hey, you're my 4th best friend, and he's like, who's number 1? And then like she's like, oh, you don't realize what I'm trying to say here, because like she likes 4-leaf clovers, and he's the 4th best friend. And then the Lands and Senna one was very subtle, but it was very good because they're best friends and they're there for each other. They're not like explicitly revealed to be like lovers as much as Noah and Mio and maybe even Uni and Tyon are, but they're very sad because they always wanted that kind of person in their life. Lands wanted a Senna, Senna wanted a Lands, and they're like, why do we have to leave now? Like, and no,
I think the funniest part of that scene is Riku and Nene
and Manana.
They like Nene. That's a different Napon, I think. Riku and Manana, like, I feel like you don't get it until that moment. It's like they really cared about each other, but they didn't really show it until that moment. They were like so sad.
Like, you know when like they're all saying goodbye, like I hit the breaking point when they're like, no. Like, nah, I'm gone. And then like when they're running and like you see they're like
they're still crying as they're running.
They're like probably like that. It's just like they're the sweetest little fluff balls, and like you're literally splitting their hearts apart. Like
we need to do a whole episode on Riku.
I'm down.
Riku character analysis.
I'm down. Dude, Luxon made a feature-length film on Riku. We can do an entire Conduit Cast episode on Riku. I will get into my Xenoblade 3 segment, then we'll do the community stuff, which we'll go through that real quick, and then we'll talk about Chapter 5, because we gotta end with that. But anyways, my Xenoblade 3 moment, this is how I described it. I wrote it like this. It is, okay, it's the flashback to Gondor's death and the fall of the city in Future Redeemed. N fights Alpha, who has taken over Niall's body. Gondor confronts his father, who has become a Mobius, and understands why he's doing what he's doing. I don't necessarily, I don't know if like Gondor truly gets it, but he, like, it is very interesting when, I'll give a little backstory to this. So basically, after Wave 2 of the DLC came out, like that's when, Wave 3. When Wave 3 came out, we got people data mined the game and found the cutscene names for Future Redeemed. The cutscene names, so like people saw cutscenes that were called Klaus's World, Gondor's Path, Niall's Dream, like all of these like crazy cutscenes, and everyone was like, holy shit, this is legitimately like this is gonna be it. And then I saw Gondor's Path, and I was like, that's crazy. Like, what does that mean? Are we going to go back into the future and see like moments from like Gondor from Xenoblade 3, like the girl Gondor? In my head, I was like, what is happening? And then I kind of like pieced things together. I was like, this is the story that I wanted about the founders. This is the story that I wanted. We're going to get lore about House Vandom. Gondor's from House Vandom. Maybe we see the founder of House Vandam, who's named Gondor or something like that. And then we found out that his name was Matthew through the data mines, and I was like, who is this Gondor guy? Who is this Gondor guy, and how is he linked to House Vandam? And then the Future Redeemed trailer came out. We saw like this old man who was like teaching Matthew like the moves, and then like they found, like, they translated the Japanese from his name, and they're like, that's Gondor. And I was like, holy shit, dude, that is N&M's son. That is the kid that he left in that like incredibly tragic scene where like his mother is gone, his father is about to just like evaporate into existence, and he's leaving this kid there, and he's like do everything you can, like make like have a good life, make the best for yourself, make good friends, like build connections, and like remember that we still love you. And then he's gone. That kid is Gondor. Because I was like, are we gonna see that kid in the DLC? Are we gonna see that kid in the DLC? And then when we saw that his name was Gondor, it all clicked. I was like, this is the kid. He's grown up. He's built the city. And then, of course, like later on, we see that cutscene, but we don't like see the full like thing. We just see like flashbacks to Matthew, who saw his grandfather die, and then we saw like this whole burst of light, and he's like, what happened to the city? And then eventually we see through Origin's memories, we see what truly happened. And what really always got to me with that scene is like there's a really good video of how this scene is dissected. There's so much to it. I should have like watched it more in detail before doing this podcast, but there's just so much to it. And the one thing that always hit me is like it looks different, he's acting different, he's got this long hair, he's got this mask, his eyes are like crazy, like he doesn't look like Noah ever did. He only looks like Noah through his like physical like attributes in that way. But Gondor, being his son, who would never forget like that the moments he had with his parents, he automatically recognizes him. He's like, Dad, is that you? Holy shit, like what has happened? Why are you like this? What happened? And the moment that always hits me so hard is he said, he's like, you told me to make friends, you told me to build connections, you told me to do all this stuff, and like look at the city, like I've done that, and what have you become? Like what happened? And then of course we see like the fight between Alpha and N is so caught up in that endless now. Like of course he's doing this for Mio, but he is so broken and so like devastated that he wants to live forever, and he wants to keep this life just going, and he just wants to perpetuate it. And Gondor just cannot believe what he is seeing. He's like, this is everything against what like my parents have taught me, and especially what my father's like his final words, what he imparted to me. And then eventually he like gets in there, he breaks up the fight, and he like gets in there to save Niall. When we saw that trailer, when we saw the first like stuff about that, we thought that N was like, he willingly killed his own son. But N didn't want to do it. He I don't think he did, but because Gondor went in there and he was saving his granddaughter. And when N does it, he kind of comes to his senses a bit. He's like, holy shit, I went this far. I actually did it. And Gondor's like, he's holding the blade, and he's like, what would Mother have said? What would she have done in this moment? What if she can see you like this right now? And he's like, that's not important. That's you don't understand this. And he says, this is my burden alone to bear. And you realize like how far gone this guy is. And like N is my favorite villain in the Xenoblade series, but he mirrors my favorite villain in Xenogears, which I won't get into right now, which you guys will experience. But it is done in a very different way, but it is also similarly done in which this character is like really hurt so bad, he loses so much, but he doesn't want that to ever happen again. So he goes about doing things in a completely opposite and very like devastating and violent way, and it's always Gondor's reaction to that, his son's reaction. This like old grizzled man, he's like a martial artist, he's like taught his grandson like how to fight, and like you can tell like this guy is like he's like a dude. But then you see him in that moment and he becomes that like little kid again, and you're like, shit, like
that's what makes it so sad, because that's his literal dad. His dad just killed him. Like,
yeah,
so it's like, oh, like, daddy, like, you know, it's me, your son, it's your boy, like
exactly. Like whenever you said like, you told me to make friends, you taught me all these things, and now look at you now. And then you see M come back and she sees everything, and she's like, why did you do this? Like, yeah, it's sad. It's sad. It's emotional.
rough. It's so rough.
I think this is like, it's really good that it's really good to bring all these scenes to the table, because this is a scene that I remember how I felt about it. I remember like details about it, like certain things, but I couldn't tell you this much about it because I'm like, I saw it once while I was playing it, and I was like, because I have it in my head, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know that N didn't necessarily want to kill Gondor, and I know that there was a kind of a flipping of the script there, but I'm like, I don't really remember how that was handled, to be honest.
Yeah, and
it's been a while.
It's very subtle. It's very like, I wouldn't say blink and you miss it, but like if you don't get it, then you're like wondering, why did this have to happen the way that it did? And similarly, everyone's like, oh, of course we'll see N do this. We'll see him destroy the city because like Zed told him to do it, and if he did that, then he'll get M back. But there's more context to it. He's not only doing it because of M or Mio, he's doing it because Alpha is threatening the entirety of Mobius. Zed is like, hey, you have to get this guy out of the picture, because otherwise we are obsolete and we're supposed to have control over this whole world, and like, can you do this, please? So that's another incentive for him. Yeah. Shows like the lengths that he's willing to go. But yeah. Are we ready to go into community stuff?
I guess so, yeah.
Can you read them out, because otherwise I think my webcam scene will go away.
All right, yeah, I have them all here on my second monitor. All right, first off, we have Silver Shield. This is a quite long
Yeah, post. he elaborated on Discord.
I think they mentioned multiple, so I don't know how much time we have, but they said end of Xenoblade 2, Chapter 5. I'm assuming also Xenoblade 2. The most sad I've been was the end of 3. Yeah. We talked on that a lot. Whole sequence was peak, absolutely. Yeah. One of my favorite things about Xenoblade 3's ending was watching people's reactions to it, like a bunch of different streamers and stuff. Yeah. So many people were just, so caught up in it, so emotional. Like I found a lot of people's streams from doing that.
I need to. That was really great to see. I need to watch DB Geek's VODs, because his
that was really hard.
His experience was one for the books, like his Chapter 5 experience.
There was one I forgot his name, but we follow each other on Twitter now. I'll have to put it in, or I'll have to show you guys. Yeah. So he's sobbing during this ending, and he's got his head in his hands. He missed the Rex picture. He didn't see it. And then during just the black credits roll, his chat was like, "You gotta see the picture," and then you see his reaction to it after the fact. It's really fun, really funny, stream moment. Silver Shield also says they cried at Where We Belong, of course, saying goodbye to everyone. The favorite character was Uni. We pretty much talked about all the big points of this, Poppy and the Monada, and seeing the picture, and it's you know, very bittersweet farewell. The end of Future Redeemed, of course, we went over that. Yeah, peak all around. We have Sav 0079. Is that a Gundam reference? I hope so. End of Xenoblade 2. They said it had them in a complete wreck from Poppy's promise that they will eventually return.
Oh, that scene. Yeah,
said
I
it was
didn't talk
perfect in
about
every
that.
way.
But like,
Yeah.
real quick about that, I think I mentioned this in I don't remember who I said this to, but it was probably in a Conduit Cast episode, or yeah, I don't remember which episode it was. What was our last episode? It was Hot Takes. Maybe it was the one before that, but I think everyone says something to Rex. Like Zeke says, hey, you gotta let her go, like she's the woman you love, you gotta just learn to let go. Morag says, like, Rex, I really respect you, like I didn't know what my purpose was, but like being on this journey with you really helped me. And everyone like says something to him. Poppy was like, Rex, I want to help you, but I can't, I made a promise. Tora says something as well. Nia doesn't say anything. Nia just looks at him, makes eye contact, she just nods, and that one like scene just like speaks volumes beyond anything that she could have said. That is the one thing that just hits me hard. That Nia, like, the look, she's just like...
That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Let's see. I don't know how to read this person's name. Nbrar.
Yeah.
Nbrar, 33, says, the moment that really resonated with me was when Rex lost Pyra and Mithra. So I'm assuming this is like, this is the party split moment. This is when everyone starts beating the shit out of Rex. This is when Poppy finally like kind of comforts him, and like it's such a powerful scene of him like basically quitting or wanting to quit, and I've written a lot about that in my upcoming video. That's a really good one.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Sarah,
aka Lucky Cur Plucky, interesting name, on Blue Sky. The last scene of Xenoblade 3, of course, everyone running towards each other. Of course, yeah, absolutely. Of course, that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
Xeno Universe video on YouTube. End of Future Redeemed. Bulk Rex and A leaving, yeah. That's a big one, of course. Yeah. I got that shit on my wall.
Yeah, I made a thumbnail out of that. My Future Redeemed like discussion like review. I had that picture in the thumbnail. That was, yeah, that's an iconic image. It's great.
Yeah, I love that. It also, to me, it kind of harkens to well, actually, that might be spoilers. It harkens to some other game that I really love, but
okay,
I'm not gonna mention it. That is kind of a spoiler.
Okay.
I was like.
Okay.
In Xenoblade 3, the beginning of Chapter 6 was harder for me than the end of Chapter 5. Because the gameplay mechanics made it impossible for Mio to die. And when the scene did set a bad mood, which carried into the beginning of Chapter 6, seeing Mio then Noah die before your eyes and their kid really was something. So they're talking about the flashback, the previous lives.
Yeah, we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah. So we had all good responses. A lot of them that we already covered. I think that goes to show a lot of like these are really impactful moments to a lot of people, and like they're really popular, and we love discussing them.
Yeah. Are we good on time, Nimbus? Are we good?
Yeah, I'll probably have to wrap it up soon, so we should probably get on to Chapter 5.
Okay, yeah, we'll do a quick portion on Chapter 5, and then we'll close it out. But yeah, I think
Chapter 5 is extremely dense.
It is dense, but it is the, like, it is the moment that everyone calls to when they talk about, like, emotion in Xenoblade. It is the moment, like, I'll give a quick anecdote. When I started my play session that night, I didn't know what I was getting into. I started at like 8 p.m., did Triton and Fiona's hero quest, and I was like, yeah, I'll just do the rest of this. I'll do the story section. I started chapter 5, went into Agnes Castle. I didn't end my play session until 3 a.m. that morning because I was like,
damn,
I need to see more. I need to see more. I need to see more. And I was like playing it on the big TV, and then it got like so intense that I had to like take my Switch handheld, take it back to my bed, and finish off in bed. And I was like, wow, that was so much. That was everything. And it's great. It's great. Like I'll share my favorite moments from it in a bit, but I want to hear what you guys have to say.
Kevin, did you want to go next?
All right. So, chapter 5, it was definitely hyped up to me before playing the game, but I was like, okay, this is a big moment, you know. See what they got, and I really loved getting to the city. You'll hear me talk more about this, but actually, just getting to the city and realizing that was half of the game. Because when I first started Xenoblade 3, I was like, okay, yeah, we gotta make it the Sword March. I'm sure we'll get there within like 4 hours of gameplay or something. And then you get there 30 hours in, and you're like, oh, this, like, I've played a whole half of the game just to get to the city. Like, that's crazy. And then, like, man, I think that's like the beginning of chapter 4 even, I think.
No, that's the beginning of chapter 5. Actually, wait, that is the beginning of chapter 5. Beginning of chapter 5 is when you meet Monica and you go into the city, and that is also amazing. You see the really beautiful scene where they see a baby for the first time.
Oh yeah, I love that. Who wants to know how babies are made?
It's such a genius cutscene because, like, imagine like you're 20 years old, you've never seen a baby in your life. That is a very genuine reaction, and then that line at the end is so funny. Like, it's so placed in there so perfectly.
It's got perfect comedic timing.
I laughed out loud in like a very like genuine way. I was like, that's great. Great.
Yeah, I think my favorite overall part of chapter 5 is the kind of, I don't know what you call it, the flashback section, the alternate live sections, just like the part where you're separated from the party, you're in like this all cloudy area, and you see like the little Gondor. I always assumed it was Noah as a child, but apparently it is Gondor's model. It is like their son. And just seeing the whole history, seeing how Noah lived all these past lives, where he betrayed everyone, where like all the different choices that he could have taken, and you don't see it as much, but you hear some of the other characters reacting to it. You hear Lance like calling him out or being like surprised that he like betrayed them. You see how far N went to save Mio or to hold on to their time together, and like you see them have their child together. You see the end of both of their lives. It's just a really heart-wrenching sequence, and it's like really confronting you with so many implications of like the lore of the whole reincarnation thing, and like the soldiers, and just like all of this stuff that so many things about N are counter to Noah. They're like completely counter to what he believes in, and then he's confronted with the reality that this is him. This is a possibility for him. He could very easily be led down these paths again, and I thought that was extremely impactful.
Yeah. What about you, Nimbus?
I think it's the most obvious part that I lost it when Mio, like, her homecoming, and she like evaporates into the beyond. Because like we all saw, like, it was intended that it was coming because she was that year older than everybody else, so she was gonna go before everybody. And then I think because like in a lot of storytelling and mediums and stuff, like there's always like the cliche of like, oh, before someone dies, like someone else swoops in the last minute to save them.
Yeah,
and they went for it. They went for it in this.
Yeah, Yeah, like I was expecting, like, oh, someone will, like, save her. They'll extend her life somehow. Like something like that was gonna happen. And then, like, you feel the hopelessness when they're all in, like, the prison, and Noah's, like, knuckles are just, like, bloody red, and he's, like, been punching, like, the walls and the bars, like, endlessly. Because, like, he's trying not to give up. He's trying to represent that hope. He's trying to, push forward, but eventually, like, ends just like, oh, yeah, well, the sheer weight of reality, like, hits you like a freight train.
Yeah.
And then Noah's just like, nah. He's like, I'm giving in. Like, oh, I'm going to give up. And then, like, Mio is like, the Mio we expect. But she's like, yeah, my Noah. But it actually ends Mio, like, saying that.
If you look back at all that, it just makes so much sense after seeing it all. And even in the battle with M, you hear the flutes, obviously, but then you see that swap, but you don't know what it is in the moment. Yeah.
You don't get it first.
And then the flutes are trying to tell you, like, hey, something's up here.
Yeah, and they hint at it when, like, because Mio's, M's whole ability was, like, the consciousness swapping. And then it's like, oh, of course, like, that moment when they're on that battlefield, like, they shared consciousness. And, like, M put the plan in place, like, I'm going to sacrifice myself. You should live. Like, you are hope.
Yeah.
Let's trade places and I'll pretend I'm you. Like, you don't realize that, like, that they set that up. And it's like, oh my God. But, like, when you're caught up and you see it for the first time, you don't think about any of the foreshadowing because you're taking the story in for the very first time. So, like,
it's the magic trick.
Yeah.
As Resonant Arc says, if you've seen that one, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, so, like, it was just like, because I was playing, it was like the middle of the day, it was like lunchtime or something, and I was like starving, but I had to keep playing because, like, it was so gripping. And then when they're out on the altar and the eclipse is, like, happening, and you're just like, how are they going to get out of this? And then, like, Riku's like, oh, Noah, don't forget about Lucky 7. Like, draw out Lucky 7 times the need. And then Noah just, like, can't do it. And then, like, the way the end, like, kicks the flute, he's like, go on, you're a Nazi. Pick it up. Go send her off. It's like, oh my God, he is brutal.
It's rough.
Oh my God, like, he's holding the flute, and then she's turning into light notes, and she looks behind, and, like, it just, dude, like, I lost it so badly. I literally had to run and go get a box of tissues. Like, I went through, like, 10 tissues. I just kept grabbing them and just, like, burying my eyes in there. I'm just like, I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. And I'm just like, I lost it, man. I just, like, it really affected me. And then, like, when, like, it transitions to, like, was the beginning of chapter 6, and then it's almost like memory space. Like, you're in a conscious memory space where, like, Noah's, like, it's like he's moved on to the afterlife almost. And then, like, when the game wants you to save, and it's like, oh, it's good to keep a note. And it's just like, dude, like, he's...
Yeah. I loved those save screens with Mio's notebook. I think I got a bit... Chapter 5 and 6 kind of blend together for me, because it's like one after the other. So I think that section I mentioned is kind of from chapter 6, but it's all kind of the same story.
We call it chapter 5 in the community, but it is basically end of chapter 5, beginning of chapter 6.
Yeah.
It feels like chapter 5 because it leads up to it.
Yeah.
So...
I will say my favorite part about this whole section is actually in chapter 6, and it is when it is revealed that M was actually the one who was sent off, and Mio is back, and N's reaction to that.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
I was speechless because it is
Harry McIntyre for best actor.
It is one of the best, like, performances of agony and despair I've ever seen. Ever. Like, I don't care if it wasn't motion capture, if it wasn't a real person. I've never heard a scream like that. I've never in my life seen, like, a character like gets so like just his world just shattered. Thousands and thousands of years of trying to keep that like life together, and it's all gone within a snap of his fingers. And then that scream, and then after that, I don't know if you notice this is what like really made me just like wow. Like if you notice, he pulls himself together immediately. It's like he has a complete switch in his mind. He doesn't, like, you would think, oh, you would still be crying, you would still be like grieving, but no, he's like immediately back. He's like, you did this to me, it was all your fault. And then he has like all these like,
he's filled with rage and hatred.
He's unstable. He's
built
far gone. He's like, he's lost it completely. But then my ultimate favorite moment is it's the cutscene called Sword of Origin, where you interlink, you fight him. After you fight him, Noah pulls out the sword from his chest, and then he brandishes the Sword of Origin. And like, we talked a lot about this with Jake, but that is basically, that sword is the ultimate Xenoblade. It is the combination of the Pneuma blade with Fiora's Lucky 7 in the Origin Ascended form. It is basically, if you want to call any of the Xenoblades if you want to call any of the swords in the series the Xenoblade, that is the one to call. That is the Xenoblade.
Yeah.
And
the interlink itself quite literally being an animus thing.
Yes, that too. But on top of that, the lines in that cutscene are very good. He said, the Sword of Origin, you mean to destroy the world, Mobius, the whole world. He says something like that. And then Noah says, if the world holds our lives back, I will end it. It's as simple as that. And then N's response is even better. He says, it is impossible. I have tried. We have tried, but we have continuously failed. And then Noah's rebuttal is like, you're full of shit. You never tried. You didn't do anything at all. You just, yeah. So like that whole back and forth, it's almost like an internal like struggle within both of them. They're like talking to themselves. They're like, I tried, but like I didn't do it. And then Noah's like, no, we didn't do it. We didn't try. We gave up. And this is what happens when we give up. And it's just good. It's peak.
It's peak. It really is peak. Yeah. And then like, and Noah just like launches at him, and then like you got that hand out,
he cuts through him, and
then just like flying, like, oh my god.
Well, what's good is that scene you mentioned specifically has a lot of symbolism, because the Lucky 7 is meant to embody the will of that person. Malos found Noah, and that's why N has Malos within his Lucky 7. Pneuma eventually made its way to Noah to like make it so that the Sword of the End could be powered by Pneuma, which will forge the hope for the future. And it is very telling that that fight with them is literally Pneuma versus Logos, and Pneuma just like cracks Logos, and the sword shatters, and like N's whole like hopes and will and his like ambition for what he was trying to do to keep that endless now has just shattered. And then Zed is like, bro, what the heck? I thought you were the one. What happened? And he's like, I'm still trying to do it. Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. Any final thoughts about any of this?
Man, I guess it's just like, it goes to show how important this section of this game is to. Only it's like, it's so important to the overall story and like thematic tying of the whole series. It's impacted the fans so much. It is like, it is such a like, almost, it is an encapsulation of what the series is, what it's trying to do, what it's accomplishing. I think it's a really fantastic stretch of the game. Yeah,
not only for 3, but as you said, for the whole series. And I again have to say this, a lot of that whole stretch, chapter 5, chapter 6, a lot of it just oozes Xenogears, and you guys will see why in many ways. Like there are scenes that I'm looking back at now where I'm like, I know what he was trying to refer to with this stuff, It's great stuff. But yeah. Hey guys, Nishquick here. I'm going to be doing a little cut-in where I talk about my favorite or most treasured emotional moments from Xenoblade Chronicles X and Xenogears, because I've played those, and like we said, Kevin and Nimbus haven't played them yet, but since I played them, I wanted to share my like emotional moments from these games as well. So I'll start with Xenogears, because that one's like really fresh in my mind. I recently played the game, and of course I'll have these sectioned off so you guys can skip around however you want to skip around. But Xenogears' emotional moment is a gigantic stretch of the game. So basically, after you get into Markava for the first time, you learn about the history of the world from Ellie, who becomes Miang, and all that stuff. It's a very crazy segment right there. But then right after that, Faye is taken back to Shavad, and he's frozen in carbonite again because of various reasons and whatnot. But basically, what happens is Id awakens in Faye once again and unleashes this immense power within Faye and sends him straight towards the Zohar. I think it's around here as well where Citan confronts Queen Zephyr and asks her, hey, why are you doing this to Faye? Why are you always freezing him in carbonite, and why are you like suppressing him? Why don't we like make things better? Why don't we help him out and heal him? Why are we just suppressing this like id within him? And Zephyr reveals the entire story of the Shavad and Solaris War. So that's one immensely emotional thing, because you see the downfall of Lacan and Krelian, two very amazing characters, and Lacan and Graf are basically like my favorite characters in the entirety of Xenogears. I know it's not like Lacan, you don't see him much, but he is obviously very much tied to who and what Graf is. You get to see in this like Torn of the Golden Country-esque flashback what led Lacan down this tragic path, how he was so unsure of himself, how he was apprehensive of how he comes across to others, how he comes across to Sophia, and how he is just very hesitant that he's doing the right things in just many aspects in his life. A lot of that hesitancy and apprehension just comes to a head when just don't go right, and of course Solaris and Shavad have their falling out, Sophia sacrifices herself, Lacan is in an absolute desperate state, Krelian snaps, and he just kind of creates this own god complex within himself and goes down a completely different and nihilistic path. And then we see Lacan's whole journey as a fractured contact, how that leads to him becoming Graf, and how his like desire for power and desire to become whole once again as Graf leads to the annihilation, the utter destruction of, I think they say 90% of the entire like population of the world. So that's insane. But a lot of that leads directly into Faye and Id having their final confrontation and their final kind of interaction with each other, with Faye, Id, and the Coward. That whole scene in itself is very great, because you see like the prominent Xeno kind of psychoanalysis inner conflict there within the id, the ego, and the superego, within Faye mediating between his two other selves, which is the Coward, who wants to still remain with those happy memories. He wants to ignore the reality of the situation of what happened so many years ago with the death of his mother and all that. And then Id is at his wit's end. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I can't just keep this pain held on to me so much. Like it's so painful. It's so like unbearable. And Id just wants to rid himself of the other personalities and just go up in the hierarchy and be the only person there and just create destruction and just let all that misery out, because he just hasn't healed that inner conflict within himself with the Coward and with Faye. And eventually, Faye has gone through so much, he's learned so much, and after learning and growing and coming to terms with everything that he has learned about himself, he is the one who is the mediator between the coward and with id. And that moment is very beautiful, where they come to a realization, they understand what happened to their mother, and they take responsibility for it. And then, of course, right after that, Faye talks with the wave existence. It's almost like, it really reminded me of Shulk talking with Alvis. And Faye takes responsibility for all the things that's happened to him. And that's a very profound kind of a realization and conclusion that Faye arrives at. So that's amazing in itself. And then right after that, you see the whole conflict between Graf and Khan and Faye and all that. So that whole stretch was like, I mean, just two really rushed a lot of that stuff out. But it was maybe a stretch of like maybe 3, 4, 5 hours. It was such a emotional roller coaster, and it's something I will never forget whenever I think about Xenogears. It's probably my favorite moment in the game. It's peak Xeno to me. It's absolutely everything I love about the series, and everything introspective that I love about the series. And another thing that you see is like you get to see a lot of the most iconic moments from all the Contact's lives, because it just imparts all those memories to him. So many iconic memories, so many iconic scenes, just great all around. Hey guys, Nish Quick here, and this is recorded a little bit in the future. Just drinking some coffee and thinking about Xenoblade Chronicles X and my most emotional moment from that. And I have to talk about Hope Alonzi's Affinity mission and her entire quest line. It's kind of an emotional roller coaster, and I want to tell you guys why. So basically, Hope is one of Blade's mediators. So mediators mean that they're just mediating all the problems in ULA, and basically if you join the mediator division in Xenoblade X, you're going to be doing a lot of quests, or your Blade level increases the more quests you do, basically. And Hope is basically, I wouldn't even say she's like a therapist, but she's a mediator in the most literal way. Everyone goes to her for their problems, for advice on things, and just having her around to help them out in times of trouble and times of need. And in her first Affinity mission, she is working with this woman named Ornella. And Ornella is kind of like her assistant and helping her with many clients that she has within her clientele. And she's always like sternly giving her advice. Hey, Hope, don't let people take advantage of you. And she's always like thinking more in the business sense, because Hope is doing this from the goodness of her heart. She's helping people because she wants people to be helped, and she wants people to be happy. But Ornella's like, oh, you shouldn't do this for free. You should have them like reward you for all this stuff that you're doing to help them. And in your head, you're thinking, yeah, Hope is doing this out of the goodness of her heart, but you don't want her to be taken advantage of. Because in that first quest line, she helps out this Nopon, and she does it all for free, just because she's nice and she wants the Nopon to get the help that they deserve. In the next quest line, it is noted that Ornella is missing, and Hope is trying to figure this out because there's supposedly an imposter who is causing a little bit of discourse and unrest and chaos in ULA, who is posing as Hope. And eventually you find out that this imposter is a shape-shifting alien, one of the many indigens and xenoforms in Mira. And this person is shape-shifting as Hope to lure her frequent clients into these traps, and eventually Ornella is profiting off of this. These aliens are just rewarding Ornella for selling Hope out and selling out these clients that come to these aliens, and then eventually will probably get killed, unfortunately. But then, of course, Ornella reveals that she's doing all this and she was helping Hope in the first place just for the money. And of course, you can kind of tell right from the start, Ornella's doing this all for the money, but it's really sad that Hope was really taken advantage of, not by the people that she was genuinely helping out from the goodness of her heart, but from Ornella, who she frequently was saying was like a mother to her, someone who was so supportive to her and was very helpful in this whole kind of small little business that she'd opened up, helping out other people within ULA. And of course, Ornella reveals she was doing this for the money. She hates being here in Mira, and she's just so greedy, malicious, and upset about all of this. And she's like, of course I could take advantage of someone like Hope, someone so easy to manipulate. And you feel so sorry for Hope, because she's gone through so much. She's lost her only father figure, she has no family, and she's learned so many like positive and good values from her father, and she wants to impart this to the people in New LA. And then of course Ornella comes out and just kind of takes advantage of her. The kind of most insane thing about this is the way Ornella goes out is, all I'll say is that she goes out in the exact same way that Shania goes out in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And the way that ends in the second Affinity quest is that moment happens, Hope reacts to it, and the quest ends. So that was just a very shocking moment to me when I played Xenoblade X, and I'll never forget that. But what's great is Hope's questline does not end in this very dark and tragic way. Basically, in the third questline, or in the third quest chain, you find her and she's very sad and upset and depressed about this whole situation. She's lost many friends, she's lost a mother figure. Despite Ornella being a very terrible person, she was seen as a mother figure for Hope. And Hope is just kind of having a lot of existential crises about herself and her purpose and what she's been doing to help the residents of New LA. And then she thinks about herself and she's like, oh, if only my father was here to help me through this difficult time. If only I could read his journal, but that was destroyed during the crash when the humans arrived on Mira, unfortunately. So the third questline is very wholesome because it kind of hits home how many people Hope has positively impacted in ULA. All these people come together, all these people from the first and second quest lines, they all come together to help you, your protagonist character, to find this journal, to find the lost records of this journal, and to give it to Hope. And Hope is, of course, very thankful for that. But then she thinks again, like, I thought I would find all the answers to all my questions in this book, and she still feels very upset and very sorrowful about everything that's happened. But then in the very end of the quest line, all her friends, all the people not only in New LA but in Mira, because she's gone out and helped people like Nopon and Caldros, all these people come back to New LA to like thank Hope for all the things that she has done. And they're like, hey, we were willing to go out and find that journal for you if it's what it took, because you helped us out in so many ways. The least we can do is help you out and see you happy again. So it's a very simple but very wholesome quest. Very emotional in some ways, as you saw, like when I was talking about the second part of that quest line. Things get very dark, especially with Ornella, but I really like Hope as one of the optional characters in Xenoblade X. I think she's one of my favorites because you see someone who is going out of their way from the goodness of their heart to help people, and she initially doesn't like expect anything in return. And her coming to terms with everything and realizing that her friends and the people that she has helped are there for her, and they are like her day ones as well, and they would do anything for her as well. That's a very wholesome kind of realization she comes to at the end of this. So that is my final emotional moment in the Xenoblade Chronicles series, and that is with Xenoblade Chronicles X. And you guys will get to experience that or re-experience that quest chain when Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition comes out this March. So I'll see you guys in this episode of the Conduit Cast later. I think that about does it. This was a long episode, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this discussion. I think we did the series and all the emotional moments justice, and I loved hearing your guys' picks. Yeah, Upper Nimbus, yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It was great talking with you. You want to, like, shout out anything you're working on and, like, talk about what you've been up to before we close out?
So I'll probably have the video like uploaded tomorrow, like after we've done recording here. It's because you know how I do the YouTuber of the Month thing, because I was lucky enough to win that competition. So
oh yeah, congratulations again, by the way. Yeah, that was
thanks,
great.
man.
Yeah.
That like February episode, it's a little bit behind, but it's going to be up, I think, in like a day from now. But I'll admit I've had a little bit of like a crisis with where I want to take my content for the channel, because I feel like I've gotten stuck in a loop with like list videos. But I've had, in a way, thanks to your upcoming secret project, Nish, the one that we're going to be about. There's something I'm going to try with my video, and it's something that if I can pull off would really give me a good like taste tester for a massive passion project for the end of the year, which may or may not be Xenoblade related.
Ooh.
So there is something I really want to work on, like I mean like something that I really want to like express. But maybe I can talk to you more about it behind the scenes, like at some point. But yeah, I want to do a little bit more like Xenoblade content on the channel, like a little bit more focused content. I don't know. So like, there's ideas there, and I'm gonna play around with some different things. But anyway, I drew out like a whole thing that I don't even know what I'm gonna be doing. But yeah, no, there's things I want to do, and there's more Xenoblade content I want to introduce on the channel.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and yeah, Upper Nimbus's channel will be linked in the description below. Also, congrats to both Kevin and Upper Nimbus for hitting 1K recently. Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah, they hit the threshold of
good.
1K. Yeah, both you
Join
guys.
the 1K club.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, Kevin, what have you been working on? What's up with you?
Oh boy, I am working on a very large Xenoblade 2 video. I do not know when it's gonna be out, but I might be filming soon.
Okay.
The script is almost done. The script is like 90% done.
That's good.
And it's gonna be a huge video. I know I kind of worked myself into a corner because it's genuinely gonna be like probably my longest video. I'm just gonna work on it until it's done. You're gonna get it when it's finished.
Yeah.
But this time I will actually advertise it and make sure I update people on what's coming out, when it's coming out, teasing it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a, my own analysis of Xenoblade 2. I'm very excited for everyone to see that. It is a sequel to my Xenoblade 1 video, of course, but it is also very different, and it's kind of me moving into the next phase of my YouTube career.
Exciting.
So hopefully that goes good, and definitely look forward to it. Remember, Rex means king.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. We've been talking about your Xenoblade 2 video for a while now, so I'm very excited to see how it turns out.
Like 2 years ago you asked me when it's coming out.
Yeah. I think it'll live
I didn't have a script anywhere in the process at that point. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah, it was because around when was your Xenoblade 1 video? Was it last year or was it the year before?
3.
Okay, yeah, so ever since then I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what Kevin does for 2, and then 3 is like way down in the future. But yeah, well, 3
is like, that's gonna be like a 4-hour video that I make over the course of 3 years.
It'll be worth the wait though. It'll be worth the wait. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. For me, I also have arguably the biggest production in Niche Quick Pop's history in the works, and the title of the video is something along the lines of how Xenoblade 2 tells the story of Xenogears and Perfect Works. So that script is finished, the audio is recorded, all I have to do is get in and edit it, which is going to take a while, but it is probably the longest scripted video I've done on the channel, and I am very happy with how it turned out, and I'm going to do it again for Xenoblade 1 and 2, and that's going to be fun. Xenogears Xenogears is something.
That sounds awesome. I think you especially have been popping off with your content recently.
Oh, thank you.
I think like if there's possibly anyone listening to this that hasn't been keeping up with Niche Quick's uploads, I implore you to check it out.
Yeah, you guys should check out my video that released today about the future of Xenoblade and Monolith Soft as well. That was fun.
I've got to catch up on that.
Yeah.
And also, Kevin, I clearly got to catch up on your Xenoblade content as well. So
Yeah, I gotta check out your stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I had a little bit more like deep and meaningful content. A lot of mine is just like it's like surface level, like top 10 lists and
I
stuff.
mean,
It's still
I'll check
fun.
it out. I'll check it out. Yeah, I mean, it's like we put the work in. Like.
Yeah, definitely. And Nimbus has some cool collabs where he like invites a lot of other creators, and the one I mentioned in this one where he talks about it's a collaboration where he does JRPG betrayals, and he talks about Dixon again in that one. That one's very good. So yeah. But
It's a
yeah,
cool concept.
yeah, but yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Nimbus, and yeah, this was a
Thanks.
great episode of the Conduit Cast. Subscribe to all of these guys as well as me, and obviously this channel as well, the Conduit Cast, if you're not subscribed. And of course, let us know what your most emotional Xenoblade moments are in the comments down below. This is Nishquick, Protagonist, and Upper Nimbus signing off. And go play Xenoblade and cry because it's good.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic. It's good.
Don't hold back the tears. Revel in them.
Yeah. Later, guys. Have a good one.
Catch you later.
Peace.